Welcome to the Space and Astronomy Podcast, where we invite you to look up, wonder, and, well, join us on a journey into the cosmos. Today, we're embarking on a truly monumental deep dive, one that sits right at that intersection of humanity's most ancient beliefs and, the boundless expanse of the universe.
It absolutely does. A fascinating crossroads.
And the question we're grappling with is, well, it's as old as staring at the stars, but it feels more pressing than ever now. If intelligent alien life exists, does it fundamentally challenge the very foundations of religion?
A huge question.
Yeah. Can the spiritual narratives that have shaped civilizations for millennia, providing comfort, morality, meaning, can they really coexist with discovering, actual extraterrestrial civilization?
Or does it unravel everything?
Exactly. Or would such a discovery just unravel everything we hold sacred, force us to completely redefine our place in the cosmic order? It's an existential question, really probes the depths of the soul, doesn't it?
It certainly does.
I mean, for as long as humans have looked up, we've wondered, are we truly alone in this huge cosmic ocean?
The ultimate question, perhaps.
Right. And that same curiosity, it's also made us look inward, hasn't it? To think about our origins, our purpose, our morals through, gods, spirits, sacred texts.
Absolutely. Religion provides that framework for so many. Comfort, guidance.
The sense of meaning, yeah. In a universe that can feel, well, bewilderingly big.
Immense.
But now, in our modern era, astronomy is just constantly pushing boundaries. We're finding thousands upon thousands of exoplanets.
So many.
And lots of them are in these habitable zones, right? So the scientific community is increasingly seeing intelligent alien life not just as some sci-fi idea, but more like a statistical likelihood.
It shifts the perspective from if to potentially when or where.
Exactly. Which sharpens this core dilemma. What would finding actual, undeniable aliens mean for religion? Would it just expand our spiritual understanding?
Yeah.
Make our idea of God maybe even bigger?
A more cosmic view.
Yeah. Or would it just flat out render our most cherished stories, maybe our entire worldview, obsolete, done?
It is indeed a profoundly significant intersection. And like you said, it's not just some abstract academic thing.
No, not at all.
This really touches on a fundamental human need to understand our place, our purpose in the universe. And when you think about the broader implications, well, our spiritual frameworks often form the bedrock of our identity, our ethics, our sense of collective purpose.
Totally.
So a genuine challenge to those foundations that could trigger a societal transformation unlike anything we've ever experienced.
Ah, yeah.
So our discussion today isn't just a scientific what if. It really gets into a deeply human how would we cope? How would we adapt? And ultimately, how would we redefine what existence even means?
It really sets the stage for, well, a very deep dive indeed.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And to really grasp the potential seismic impact here, we first need to establish a baseline. How do the major world religions currently frame humanity's position in the cosmos?
Okay, where do things stand now?
Exactly. This understanding gives us the context to predict how these diverse belief systems might react or adapt or frankly struggle if intelligent aliens were confirmed.
Right.
And what's really revealing is just how diverse these views are already. Some are intensely human-centered, others, well, they already embrace a much bigger multi-entity cosmos.
Okay, so where should we start? Christianity.
Let's start there. Christianity is often highlighted for its deeply anthropocentric view, human-centered.
Right. Focused on us.
Very much so. At the very core of Christian theology, humanity is placed right at the center of God's creation. You look at Genesis.
Yeah, the creation story.
It details a specific narrative. Humans made in God's own image, given dominion over earth, seen as the pinnacle of his design. And then the absolute cornerstone of Christian belief, Jesus, God becoming human.
The incarnation.
Exactly, who then sacrifices himself to redeem human sin. This whole concept of redemption is intensely focused on humanity's fall from grace, starting with Adam and Eve.
Okay, that's a crucial point to unpack then. Because if that whole narrative hinges on humans being unique, made in God's image, needing redemption through Christ, what happens if we find other intelligent beings?
Beings who clearly aren't descended from Adam and Eve.
Right, who didn't have that fall as Christians understand it, do these aliens need salvation?
The key question.
And did Christ's sacrifice on earth, which is seen as this single universal event for us, did it somehow cover them too, across the galaxy?
It presents a massive fundamental theological dilemma, real tension within the established doctrine.
I can see that. So how do theologians even approach this?
Well, the responses within Christianity to this alien dilemma, they pretty much diverge into two main camps, reflecting that tension you mentioned.
Okay.
One perspective, you often hear this from more, let's say, progressive or cosmically minded theologians. They suggest God's creation is just far vaster, more intricate than we can fully grasp right now.
So aliens are just another part of the plan?
Kind of, yeah. They could be another facet of an infinitely diverse divine plan. Beings created by God for his own glory, maybe living in a state of grace we don't get, or on their own unique spiritual paths.
That allows for a bigger God, then?
It does. It expands God's creative power, his love. It suggests divine revelation might not just be an earth thing.
Okay, but what's the other side?
The other perspective, often more conservative, tends to harbor a deep concern. A fear, really.
Fear what?
Fear that intelligent alien life could fundamentally undermine the idea of humans being uniquely made in God's image. That foundational concept.
It challenges our special status.
Exactly. Our central role in the divine drama of salvation. It could potentially devalue the incarnation, the atonement, if they're seen as applying only to one species out of maybe many.
So it's this tension, embrace a bigger God versus protecting human uniqueness.
That's right at the heart of the theological challenge for Christianity.
Okay. What about Islam? How does it view humanity's place?
Moving to Islam, we find a perspective that, while it also gives humanity a central role in terms of stewardship on Earth, it also inherently acknowledges the profound vastness of the universe right from the start. The Quran, Islam's holy book, explicitly says God created the heavens and the earth and whatever is between them.
Whatever is between them, that's interesting phrasing.
It is. And that specific phrase, whatever is between them, has been interpreted by many Islamic scholars throughout history to suggest the possibility, maybe even the likelihood, of other intelligent beings out there.
So it allows for a broader view of creation.
From the outset, yes.
Yeah.
Much broader, potentially. However, similar to Christianity, Islam does place humanity in a unique moral role on Earth. Humans are designated as Khalifa.
Khalifa, what does that mean?
It translates roughly as caretakers or steward of the earth. Our main purpose, as laid out in the Quran, is to uphold God's will, justice, moral order here on this planet.
Okay, so we have this specific job on Earth, but if there are aliens out there, the questions for Islamic theology get really interesting, don't they?
They really do.
Like, would aliens be subject to Islamic laws? To Sharia? Would they need to, say, pray 5 times a day, follow the Quran, make a pilgrimage to Mecca?
These are the core questions.
Could they even be Muslim in the way we understand it, since the Quran was revealed here to us? Or, and this is really mind-bending, would they have their own prophets, their own divine messages, tailored just for them, for their planet?
That's the conceptual challenge, isn't it? Universality versus specificity of divine law.
Yeah.
It absolutely is. The core challenge lies in the specificity of Islamic law, the Sharia, which is really meticulously designed for human society on Earth.
Right.
Now, the Quran speaks of Allah as the universal God, Lord of all creation, sure, but applying religious duties, moral frameworks to non-human intelligent beings, that gets intensely complex.
So how do scholars think about that?
Well, one school of thought suggests Allah, in his infinite wisdom, might have sent different prophets, different sacred texts to different species across the universe.
Like, he sent different prophets to different human communities over time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That would align with the Islamic principle that God guides all his creation. Another view might explore if these beings exist in a state where our kind of divine law just isn't applicable.
Why not?
Maybe because they didn't have a fall or they have totally different spiritual makeup. It forces a deep reevaluation. What parts of divine law are truly universal truths, universal justice, and which parts are specific to us, to our earthly situation, our history?
Fascinating. Okay, let's shift to Judaism. How does that framework differ?
Now, when we turn to Judaism, we see a really distinct theological focus. Its core beliefs center less on a universal salvation plan for everyone everywhere, and more intensely on a specific, unique covenant, a deal, essentially, between God and a particular people. The Jewish people.
The covenant with Abraham.
Established with Abraham, solidified through the Torah, the law given at Sinai. It defines this sacred relationship rooted in the history and destiny of a chosen people here on Earth.
So it's very tied to history, lineage-specific events.
Very much so. And a unique moral and legal framework that goes with it.
Okay, so that focus on such a specific covenant, that definitely raises some profound questions if we discover intelligent alien life.
It certainly does.
If God's relationship is so specifically tied to a human lineage, descendants of Abraham, a particular set of laws in the Torah, how does that possibly extend to other worlds?
Exactly.
Would aliens be bound by the Torah's morals, the 10 Commandments, or the mitzvot, the 613 commandments guiding Jewish life?
How would they fit?
Yeah, how would non-human beings with no connection to that history, that ancestry, fit into a religious framework built on such specificity?
It really makes you think about a divine relationship that seems so particular versus one that might suddenly need to become universal.
So how is this discussed within Judaism?
Well, this specificity would definitely be a central point of theological discussion.
Yeah.
Jewish thought is incredibly rich and diverse. There's the principle that the Torah has 70 faces, meaning many interpretations are possible.
Yeah.
But the unique role of the Abrahamic covenant, the Torah, as a guide for human life on Earth, that would need careful thought when facing non-human intelligence. Some rabbinic discussions have actually touched on life on other worlds, often concluding that if it exists, maybe it operates under different divine rules, or that God's covenant with Israel remains distinct, separate.
So not necessarily a contradiction, but requires expansion.
Requires an expansion of understanding about God's broader creation, yes, while still maintaining the unique significance of the covenant for humanity. The core identity is so tied to history and land, integrating truly alien beings would be a huge conceptual leap.
Okay, that covers the Abrahamic faiths. What about Eastern religions? You mentioned they might adapt more easily.
Generally speaking, yes. When we look at Hinduism and Buddhism, they seem to possess a more inherent fluidity, maybe an easier capacity to adapt to the idea of intelligent alien life.
Why is that?
It largely comes down to their cosmological frameworks, which are already incredibly vast and multifaceted right from the start.
Okay, tell me more. Like Hinduism.
Take Hinduism. Its cosmology already describes a boundless multiverse. We're talking countless realms, dimensions, planes of existence.
Wow.
All depicted as being populated by an incredibly diverse array of beings. Gods, demigods, spirits, celestial beings, myriad forms of intelligence, many explicitly non-human.
So aliens wouldn't be that weird an idea.
For Hindu thought, the idea of non-human intelligences, even beings from other planets or dimensions, it's not foreign at all. It's kind of an inherent part of their understanding of the cosmos, already woven into their spiritual reality.
So it's already baked in a way.
Exactly. Hinduism's concept of lokas, worlds, and these huge cycles of creation and destruction across immense timescales, it naturally accommodates an endless variety of life forms and states of consciousness beyond just Earth.
And karma and reincarnation apply to all of them.
To all sentient beings, yes, across these myriad realms. And similarly, Buddhism, with its deep focus on consciousness itself.
Right, not so much on specific gods.
Exactly. More on alleviating suffering, the path to enlightenment, as universal principles. It might incorporate extraterrestrials even more easily into its philosophical system.
Because the path to nirvana is about understanding reality and the self.
Precisely. And those principles could apply to any sentient being, regardless of where they're from or what they look like.
Yeah.
Their frameworks are just inherently less dependent on a specific human-centric origin story or a unique earth-bound historical revelation. Makes them more pliable.
Okay, that makes sense.
So, to kind of wrap up this first section, what we see is this really striking spectrum of views.
Yeah, quite a range.
Some religions, especially those with strong anthropocentric roots and specific salvation stories tied to humanity, like some interpretations of Christianity, maybe Judaism, they might face significant struggles. Real theological reevaluation needed. But others, like Hinduism and Buddhism, could much more fluidly, maybe even enthusiastically, embrace alien life as a natural, even expected extension of their already vast teachings.
So the resilience and adaptability of these faiths hone over centuries.
It's going to be profoundly tested in that kind of cosmic encounter, no doubt about it.
Okay, let's shift gears now. Let's really try to imagine the scenario. Picture the moment it happens.
The confirmation.
Yeah, not just finding fossilized microbes on Mars or detecting some faint, weird radio signal, no. Imagine the profound, unmistakable moment intelligent alien life is confirmed, undisputably, globally.
Yeah.
Think about beings who don't just communicate complex ideas, but they create art, build societies, have their own histories. Maybe they even pray, have their own spirituality. Can you just visualize that moment?
The world stopping.
Yeah, the instantaneous global reaction. The awe, the fear, the confusion, and critically, the immediate impact on every single person, but especially those whose lives are built around religious doctrines.
Staggering doesn't even begin to cover it. A paradigm shift for everyone.
So what happens then? What are the possibilities?
Well, that moment, that direct, irrefutable confirmation, it would be a planetary game changer for belief systems built squarely on human uniqueness or centrality.
Like we discussed with Christianity.
Exactly. For certain interpretations, this revelation could be profoundly disruptive, catastrophic even. Our whole species' sense of cosmic significance, our privileged status, radically altered.
If we're not alone, not the sole favored creation, then what does that mean for our purpose, our relationship with God?
It forces an immediate existential reckoning, a deep one.
And we've seen echoes of this before, haven't we? Like with Copernicus.
That's a powerful parallel, yes. The Copernican revolution. When science shifted from an Earth-centered to a sun-centered universe, that was already a huge blow to the religious and philosophical thought at the time.
The idea that Earth wasn't the physical center of everything.
Right. It caused immense theological upheaval.
Yeah.
Challenged literal scripture interpretations. Humanity's perceived unique status.
Okay. But intelligent aliens, communicative, creative beings from another world, fundamentally different.
That would be an even more profound blow, perhaps unprecedented. Challenging not just our physical location, but our spiritual status, our uniqueness, maybe even the nature of divine attention itself.
So what would the immediate consequences be for religious institutions? Texts.
Well, the consequence would be immediate, far-reaching, rippling through everything, especially religious institutions. Sacred texts, they'd be under intense re-examination.
Not just by scholars, but by everyone.
By congregants worldwide grappling with this new reality. Existing interpretations would have to fundamentally shift, expand, or, well, be discarded.
You think some groups might split over it?
It's almost guaranteed. Some religious sects or denominations would likely fracture entirely over how to integrate this new cosmic reality into their understanding of Scripture, divine purpose.
We've seen that happen before with science, right?
Throughout history, yes. New scientific knowledge forces religious adaptation, but sometimes it also leads to schism, fracturing. This would be that, but on an unprecedented global scale. Could lead to new theological movements, maybe even new religions popping up in response.
Wow, okay, that's the doctrine might shatter scenario, but what about the flip side? Could it be good for faith?
That is the other truly powerful possibility. What if it isn't an unmitigated disaster? What if it's actually a moment of profound, maybe awe-inspiring spiritual expansion?
Like how discoveries like the Big Bang or evolution eventually pushed religions to reinterpret things.
Precisely. Just as those scientific discoveries push religions to broaden their understanding of God, alien contact could do the same, but on an even grander, truly cosmic scale.
So a new kind of theology could emerge.
Absolutely. This discovery could pave the way for a revolutionary new theology. We might start talking, as some progressive thinkers already have, about a cosmic God.
A cosmic God? What does that mean?
Moving way beyond the traditional idea of a deity just concerned with one small planet or one group of people.
Okay.
Instead, you could envision a God of a truly vast, intelligent, interconnected universe, whose creative power, whose divine plan encompasses this unimaginable diversity of life and consciousness stretching across galaxies.
That really changes how you think about things like omnipotence, omnipresence.
Makes them infinitely grander, doesn't it?
Imagine the sheer awe, the wonder that could inspire, instead of feeling smaller because the universe is big.
Your sense of divinity could actually deepen exponentially.
You might start seeing God's hand not just in miracles here, but in, I don't know, nebulae, pulsars, the sheer scale of life out there.
Exactly. Perceiving the sacred in the sheer diversity and scale of the cosmos, in the shared curiosity that drives all intelligent beings.
It's an inspiring thought. A God big enough for everything, everyone across the stars. That really redefines reverence.
It does, but we also have to be realistic and acknowledge the potential for a very different reaction.
The backlash.
Religious isolationism, outright backlash. It's a deeply human response, often protective, when faced with profoundly disorienting change, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. When core beliefs get challenged, some people retreat. You can definitely see that happening.
There would undoubtedly be significant segments, religious communities, who would just outright reject the existence of aliens.
Oh. Would they say it's a hoax?
Maybe an elaborate hoax, a trick. For some, the idea might be seen as actual heresy, a direct contradiction of their literal reading of sacred texts.
Or even a test of faith.
Or even a deliberate test of faith, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe orchestrated by some malevolent force trying to mislead humanity.
It sounds a bit like how some people still react to evolution, even now.
It's a very illuminating parallel. Some religious communities still vehemently deny evolution, despite overwhelming scientific evidence.
Right.
They might adopt a remarkably similar stance on alien life,
Right.
claiming it's just an elaborate deception, maybe demonic, maybe a human fabrication designed specifically to undermine traditional beliefs, to pull people away from divine truth.
Why such resistance?
The sociological underpinnings are complex but powerful. It's about protecting a cherished worldview, an established identity, a sense of unique purpose, even when faced with evidence that fundamentally challenges it. It's a defense mechanism against what feels like an existential threat to your whole spiritual framework.
Okay, so we've got shattering doctrines, expanding theology, and isolationist backlash. What other deep implications should we get into?
Well, let's really dive into some specific, often perplexing dilemmas that pop up. The first one, it's provocative. It's captured the imagination for ages. What if alien civilizations are so advanced they seem, well, godlike to us?
Ah, the aliens as gods idea, like the ancient astronaut theory.
Exactly, that's the core of it. The theory speculates that early humans, lacking our scientific context for advanced technology, just mistook extraterrestrials and their capabilities for deities or divine messengers.
You can kind of see how that might happen, right? Beings showing up in what look like flying chariots or fiery wheels.
Possessing tech that could manipulate matter, heal, communicate instantly across distances.
Indistinguishable from magic or divine power to ancient people.
Precisely. It's easy to see how those encounters could have been interpreted as visits from gods. And you find echoes of this idea woven into ancient texts, myths across different cultures.
The outline mentioned Ezekiel's wheels and Hindu Vimanas.
Indeed. The source material brings those up as intriguing, though highly controversial examples. Ezekiel's vision of gleaming flying wheels and cherubim, ancient astronaut theorists point to that as descriptions of craft and pilots.
Right.
And ancient Hindu texts, they're full of detailed descriptions of powerful flying chariots, the Vimanas, and these incredibly destructive divine weapons. Again, theorists argue these could be accounts of alien tech and maybe even warfare.
But mainstream scholars don't buy that, right?
Overwhelmingly, no. Mainstream scholars reject these theories as pseudoscience. They prefer to interpret these ancient texts metaphorically, symbolically, or as products of their specific cultural contexts.
But the story itself is still compelling.
Oh, absolutely. The narrative power is undeniable.
Yeah.
It taps into that primal human desire for grand explanations, for unifying our past with the cosmos.
And it leads to a really provocative modern question, doesn't it? If aliens, especially super advanced ones, made contact today or returned, how would we react?
Would we worship them?
Yeah. Would we feel so overwhelmed, so technologically inferior that we'd revert to ancient patterns and actually start worshiping them? Would they inspire brand new religions?
Built around them, their teachings.
Or would their presence just completely replace our old religions? Offer a new, maybe more cosmic truth that makes the old ones obsolete?
It really leans into that speculative what if that fires up the imagination, forces us to confront our deepest instincts.
Okay, what's another major dilemma? Morality.
This brings us directly to another critical one. The profound challenge of morality across the stars. What happens if we meet alien societies that either have no concept of morality as we know it?
That's unsettling.
Or, maybe even more unsettling, what if their ethical frameworks fundamentally contradict our most deeply held human values?
Oh, how would that even work? Could we even talk to each other, understand each other?
Or would we face just insurmountable moral conflicts, making true connection impossible?
Our religions, they give us frameworks for right and wrong, justice, how to treat people, the foundations of society, really.
Or for better or worse, yes.
But what if aliens follow totally different rules? Like maybe some cosmic utilitarianism species over individual, or hyper-rational ethics with no emotion, or maybe just no morality at all, an amoral state.
We'd be forced to radically reevaluate what universal morality even means. Are certain truths, empathy, compassion, justice, the golden rule, are they really universal, transcending species and planet?
Or is our sense of morality just an Earth thing? As specific as our biology, a product of our unique evolution and culture here.
It forces a really deep introspection into the very definitions of good and evil, stripped of our usual context.
And does this tie into philosophy more broadly?
It absolutely does. It raises crucial philosophical questions. Are there truly transcendent ethical principles applying to all intelligent life? Or is morality mostly a product of specific evolutionary pressures, cultural development, maybe even divine revelation unique to one species?
So finding aliens with different ethics or none?
It would force humanity to confront whether our religiously derived moral codes are truly universal and divinely ordained for all sentient beings, or maybe just parochial, effective only for us here.
That philosophical implication, it's maybe one of the deepest challenges of alien contact, examining right and wrong without our familiar earthly anchors.
It truly is. It demands a profound intellectual shift.
Okay, and speaking of specific dilemmas, for Western cultures, especially Christianity, there's that really strange, complex question. It sounds like sci-fi, but it's a serious theological challenge.
Would aliens need salvation?
Yeah? Would aliens need salvation? Think about the key questions that raises for Christian doctrine.
Cool.
If aliens are intelligent, have free will, do they sin like humans are said to have sinned? Original sin.
Did they have a fall from grace, some cosmic Garden of Eden moment?
Right. And if they did fall, do they need a Jesus, some equivalent path to redemption for their species, their situation?
Or the other possibility.
Or, and this is really humbling for us, could they exist in a state of grace, having never fallen? Pure, unblemished intelligence that humans lost.
It really pushes the boundaries of Christian theology. Is humanity's fallen state unique, a tragic exception? Or is it universal for all intelligent life with free will?
Didn't C.S. Lewis explore this?
He did, yes.
Hey.
Imaginatively but rigorously. The renowned Christian author C.S. Lewis tackled this in his space trilogy, especially Perelandra and Out of the Silent Planet.
What did he imagine?
He envisioned alien species, the Malacandrians on Mars, the Perelandrians on Venus, who, unlike humans, had never fallen from divine grace. They lived in harmony, uncorrupted in obedience and joy, never succumbing to temptation.
Wow. So in his stories, we are the weird ones.
That's the striking part. In those narratives, humanity, with our history of original sin and need for redemption through Christ, becomes the cosmic exception.
Our Earth is the fallen world.
The fallen world, the silent planet, in Lewis's telling, in a mostly morally upright, uncorrupted, divinely connected universe. It completely flips the traditional script.
Makes our specialness less about being the blessed center and more about being a tragic deviation.
A singular tragic deviation from what might be a more common, graceful, universal norm. It forces a very humbling reevaluation of human specialness.
And it really shows how these questions that sound like sci-fi thought experiments.
They're actually deeply serious, profoundly challenging theological inquiries.
Yeah, they compel us to stretch our understanding of God, grace, sin, redemption, way beyond Earth. They demand a cosmic theology.
Absolutely. But, despite all this potential chaos, the challenges, the existential reckonings, it's really crucial to consider the counter-argument. Alien contact might not actually destroy religion.
Really? After all that?
Instead, what's truly compelling is the possibility that it could paradoxically spark an entirely new spiritual awakening, foster a deeper, more expansive, more unified understanding of the divine.
How so? Because religion is resilient.
You're absolutely right to emphasize that historical resilience. It's remarkable. Religions throughout history have consistently evolved, adapted, reinterpreted core beliefs when faced with new science that initially seemed threatening.
Right, like heliocentrism, Earth not being the center.
Forced a massive reevaluation of cosmic order, humanity's place.
Then Darwin, evolution challenging creation story.
And more recently, quantum physics, the Big Bang. They've all compelled profound reinterpretations of scripture and doctrine.
Yet religion survived. It changed, but it endured.
Exactly. This enduring pattern suggests that alien life, rather than being a fatal blow, could just be the next, arguably the most monumental catalyst for religious evolution.
So finding aliens might actually expand our sense of divinity.
In ways we can barely imagine. Instead of seeing God as, a local figure confined to earthly stories or human concerns.
We might start seeing the sacred in the cosmos itself.
In the very fabric of it. The shift in perspective is seeing divinity not just in a sacred text or a building, but in the swirling beauty of nebulae, the pulse of pulsars, the dance of galaxies.
And maybe in the shared curiosity that drives all intelligent beings.
Exactly. Regardless of their origin, it could become this unparalleled source of profound spiritual awe rather than just existential dread.
It makes me think of Carl Sagan. He wasn't religious, but he saw spirituality in science.
He did. He profoundly understood that dimension.
Yeah.
He famously said, Science is not only compatible with spirituality, it is a profound source of spirituality.
That fits perfectly here.
And this is precisely where alien life could prove Sagan absolutely right. Instead of being an adversary, an insurmountable challenge.
It could be a bridge.
The unequivocal discovery of extraterrestrial intelligence could become the ultimate transformative bridge between faith and scientific wonder. It could compel humanity to embrace a spirituality not diminished by the vastness, but infinitely enriched and expanded by it.
Finding God or the divine, not just here, but everywhere.
In the endlessly surprising, magnificent unknown across the infinite intelligent tapestry of the universe.
Okay, so as we bring this cosmic deep dive to a close, let's circle back. The core question. If intelligent alien life exists, does it truly challenge the foundations of religion? Does it shatter everything?
Well, the nuanced answer is yes. Profoundly, it would challenge them.
But,
and this is crucial, not necessarily fatally.
Okay, how so?
The discovery would undoubtedly challenge our deepest assumptions, force us to reevaluate who we are, our perceived unique status. It would profoundly shake those anthropocentric roots of some doctrines that place humanity at the absolute exclusive center.
It demands a bigger God.
A bigger God, yes.
Yeah.
A broader understanding of morality that goes beyond Earth. A deeper humility about our place in the grand design. But crucially, it also invites us, maybe even compels us, to rediscover what is truly sacred.
Not just on Earth?
Not just on Earth, within our own human experiences and traditions, but across the stars. In the grand, astonishing, universal tapestry of cosmic life. It's really an invitation to a larger, more inclusive faith.
Wow. Okay. And with that, here's a final thought for you, our curious listener, to ponder long after this deep dive ends. In a universe potentially teeming with life, the divine may not speak solely to us, but perhaps to all of us, in countless languages across the vast, star-swept reaches of existence.
A powerful thought to end on.
Thank you so much for tuning into the Deep Dive on the Space and Astronomy podcast. We truly hope this sparked your imagination, expanded your sense of wonder.
Keep thinking about these big questions.
Absolutely. Stay curious, stay humble, and always keep looking up.